I'm going to show a few tips on how to use the paint bucket tool in FlipaClip. I'm going to start by making a background. This scribble is actually mountains. This is the sky, these are the mountains, and I'm going to color the sky. To do that, I'm going to hit the paint bucket tool there. Brings me down this little menu, so I'm going to hit color, and I have this set of colors, and there's different versions. There's a circle version, the square, another variation of the circle, and sliders. Now the one I like is this one here. So to start, make sure this slide is all the way up. Move this one over. You want to get blue for the sky. So I'm going to slide that over there. Move this over to get the right shade. I like that. So I'll color the sky just like that. Now for the bottom, that's going to be grass, so I want to make that green. So I slide that to the green shade that I want and do the same thing. Fill it in. I want to put the cloud on another layer, so I hit the layers button here, and somehow my background is on the top layer, so I want to slide that down, put it on the bottom, click that layer, and that will be where I put the cloud. So there's a perfect cloud. And I want to make it white, so I make sure that that's the upper corner, color that, and it's all white. Suppose I don't want it pure white. I want to make it translucent. So hit the undo button, go back to the color palette, slide this down. I want to put it about 3/4 of the way. Go back and fill it in, and it gives about 3/4 of lightness there. So if I use the lasso tool, wrap it around, and I move the cloud around, you can see how you can still see through it even though there's a slight shade of white. And suppose I want to make the white a little more opaque than it is. So I'll go back to the palette, slide that up a little bit so it's about halfway-ish. Now you can see through it less than you did before. And again, I want to lasso it and move it around, and you can see right through it, kind of like a fog. I want to show you something else you can do with a paint bucket tool. I'm going to go here to my layers. I'm going to click the 100% on these two bottom layers so that they disappear. Go back to my top layer. I want to use a photograph for this example. Hit the 3 dots up here, add image, photo library, that's your camera roll. Click that. I'm going to take that photograph. That's my nephew and his famous friend. So I'm going to use that as an example. I want to change the color of something. How about this hand on his shirt? I'm going to change the color of that. So I go up to the paint bucket tool, click a color, and figure out what color I want. I guess I'll make it blue. When I go to click it, it fills it, but it bleeds through to the bottom, because if you look real close, you can see a little gap there, and the color went through that gap. So I want to undo that and fill that little gap with more of that orange color. So up to my pen, and using the eyedropper tool, I'm going to get the same exact color as that orange, and then draw a little line there. Oops, it's a fat line. Let me fix that and make it a little smaller. That'll do. Good enough for this purpose. So when I go back to the paint bucket tool and fill it in, it should just go in only the hand, which it does. Now I want to fill in a different part. A little more challenging would be the upper part of the shirt, because there's more tones and shade there than the middle part. I'm going to make that top part a different color. I'll make it green. That's okay. I'll make it that green. Click that, and you can see there's a little bit of some fuzzy lines there because the shades are different. So this is the thresh button. It stands for threshold. I want to change that so you can see what happens when I move it up to 78. Undo it, try it again, and oh, way too much. I got to bring that back down. Undo that, lower this from 78 down to, 50 something or 40, whatever. Try it again, and you can still see there's a fine line there around that edge. So move that down some more. That's better. There's a little bit of blur over here and on the side a little bit by the neck and the side. Partly because you can see that's darker, that's lighter, that's darker again. It's kind of graduated. So it's a little tough. You have to fiddle with the threshold to get the right value for you. Otherwise, you're going to have to go in by hand and touch those things up. But let's see what happens when I pull this all the way down. Oh, it only covers a little bit, and I have to touch each spot to fill it in more. In this particular case, I'm not going to use that low of a number, but there are times that you might. There's another feature here that's really nice, and I'll show you that here. I'm going to add another photograph from my camera roll. Add image. Go to my camera roll again. I'm picking this tomato. And what I'm going to do with that is I want to remove that whole background. I just want only the tomato. So to remove the background, I can use the eraser tool. Lower it a little bit so I have more detail. Like that. Then when I do that, it erases the background. And I have to be pretty careful to go around the, whoops, undo. Make that smaller so I have more control. But it's a little tedious to go all the way around. And if it's a complicated shape, it's going to be a lot harder than just this simple sphere here. So another way is go to the Paint Bucket tool. Make that clear, probably. Slide that slider all the way down. And push the threshold back up from where it was. I want to put it pretty high. And we'll see what happens. Oh, way too much. So let's go back, move that threshold down some more. That gets rid of most of it. I might have to hand do a little bit of edging there, but let's try it again. I'll move that down a little bit more. Try it. Okay, that's not too bad. There's still a lot of rough edges up there. When I want the other layers to appear, I click those back again, and you can see the tomato with its invisible background is there. Like I say, I still have to touch up some of those edges and the little brown area, but that's not too bad. I'll hide those two background layers and flip this around. It's a little easier for me. Click the eraser tool and carefully go around, get rid of some of this brown area. If my background was a uniform color, I probably wouldn't have this type of problem. But in this particular case, the tomato did have a multi-shade background. You can just erase these little bits. Instead of a tomato, if you had a tree that's really complicated, the eraser bucket tool feature would be ideal for that. If you have any of your own thoughts or suggestions, put them in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Even if you don't like it, subscribe.